Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 1 of Your Mom's Podcast, the only podcast that's worth walking out on a date with one of Degrassi's coolest girls. I'm Avis,
And I'm Caroline.
and today we're talking about Degrassi Season 3, Episodes 1 and 2, Father Figure Parts 1 and 2. Roses are red, break out the tissues, Emma's the queen of daddy issues. Spike is about to give birth to baby Jack, and her late term pregnancy hormones are at war with Emma's teenage hormones, and it is getting messy. Feeling pushed out and also unsure how to navigate her relationship with Snake, Emma becomes hyperfixated on finding her dad. She and Craig skip school to go find him, and Emma learns that he suffered a traumatic brain injury in high school and has been in a group home ever since. She naively gives him her address, and he shows up just in time to help welcome baby Jack into the world in a most dramatic fashion. Over in grade 10, Spinner is hyperfixated on getting the perfect locker for Paige because that's the only anniversary gift he can get her for some reason.
This B plot.
It's painful.
It is.
I feel like, keeping in our tradition of talking about the B plot first, even though it's painful, like they attempt to make it stimulating, I guess, because they got to throw the fact that Spinner's in the poorhouse, quote unquote, again. Like he's poor. He's so poor he can't even win. Like he's got to barter in Monopoly. He can't even like. I mean, I know that's part of Monopoly sometimes, but like they just use it to emphasize that he's poor and that all he can get Paige is a locker.
Well, and like I will say, Spinner is so misguided in this episode,
Yeah.
but his heart is in the right place.
He's
he is
sweet.
legit. She voices something. She voices a need and a desire.
Mm-hmm.
He makes note of it and does what he can to make it happen.
And like that's what I like of what they start to give Spinner to do. They actually like to have him be the sweet guy with like I like how the first shot we see of them in season 3 is Craig taking a picture of Spinner and Paige in an embrace in a public display of affection, and it's very sweet, and it's not what we were given prior. We don't get Gavin. We only, I think
Right.
we get Gavin here, and it's sweet. And I think obviously, Jimmy has to exploit how much of a simp this young man is for Paige. But I mean, it's like his first girlfriend, and it's like the first girl who truly is like, he's like, this girl I never would expect to get. She's out of my league. Of course, he worships the ground that she walks on, and he's gonna try to do anything he can do to make her happy. And I mean, in a way, like wanting to get her a great locker is gonna go farther than like just a, I guess, a bracelet or something, like, is especially if it's going to be a cheap bracelet, like,
Right. Are you kidding? Paige would be way shittier about a cheap bracelet than she was about the first locker that he gave her.
yeah, like at least that's
Paige
the
kind of
core memory,
sucks in this, honestly.
right? I was actually going to relate it back to like her trauma, and then I was just like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that because of course I'm traumatized. I have I have things in my past that make me do certain things, and then I'm like unpacking it with my therapist, and I'm like, oh, is that why I do that? But of course, like my brain telling me, oh, this is not good enough, this is not good enough, I've done that. And that's a lot of like, it's rooted in insecurity of like not,
I mean,
but then I'm like, okay, let me not like, it's just so hard to really say that it has anything to do with that. Paige could just really be like a raging little bitch, which she can be sometimes.
Here's the thing, is it's not what she wants, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine that it's not what she wants, and it's fine for her to say, this is not what I want. What's not fine is Spinner reasonably comes to the conclusion that it's what you want because you flat out say you are jealous of Hazel's locker.
Yeah.
And like, it's fine to be like, look, this wasn't what I want, but she's such a bitch about it, and it's so unnecessary.
Yeah, it's kind of it's like it gives very genuine mean girl vibes where she's just has to be like snarky about it, and she's just like, "Oh, the location is great, but the quality of the actual locker is so shitty." Like, I don't know, it definitely puts a bad taste in your mouth for Paige as a character, and like her kickoff is not as great as Spinner. It's sort of a regression into that sort of like dissatisfied mean girl trope, where like, and I mean, I think that doesn't, I mean, that's a pathology in itself what that trope is, but it's like, there's more, I want more for Paige's behavior. Like, it's like, Paige, you're
Hmm.
beyond this, but it's like they continually let her slip into this when it's convenient for them, and right now it's convenient for them.
Well, I mean, to be fair, progress, not perfection. Like, it's,
Of course,
the first step is learning to recognize the behavior, like, after the fact.
she does recognize,
And
like,
she does
yeah, she
recognize after
does.
the fact. She gets, because she's definitely like justified in her anger about the spinner standing up in class and being like, I'm pussy whipped.
Yeah, that was not
But
cool.
then they talk it out, and she realizes like, oh, I was being unreasonable and shitty here.
Hmm.
And so I don't think that it's the writers like being like, well, we need her to be bitchy this episode. I think it's that growth is a journey, and
Yeah.
that sometimes it's two steps forward, one step back. Sometimes it's several steps back before you take another step forward.
And
And like,
I agree with that. I think that that's probably more of the like that's mostly Paige's journey, is where she is constantly at war with who she would like to be in theory, and who she act like where she actually is at the moment, and leaning back on things that are comfortable to do, because she does know that Spitter worships her, and
mm-hmm,
I think that she it's not always like a manipulative thing, but I do think that there's a sense of, okay, I know that you're going to do whatever it takes to make me happy.
whatever it takes.
Yeah,
um
it's funny. Like, their relationship, like I said, it elevates Spinner, but it doesn't always elevate Paige, and not to even jump too far forward. I think it's just evidenced in that, like, kind of like their arc in this episode, like the push and the pull. I think that that's a lot of their relationship. I think that it's just, I do like the underbelly of Gavin, and that he's sweet, and that he's really willing to kind of put his pride aside in order to achieve Paige's happiness.
mm-hmm.
Even if Paige is just not, that's not what she wanted.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I think, like I said, I think he's misguided in this. Like, ideally, he would be able to think and see, like, you know what? I feel like Paige would hate me humiliating her, and this would be humiliating. But, like, he's not there yet. And he's a young boy with ADHD, okay? He is hyper focused on this locker thing, and
Yeah.
he's gonna make it happen.
And I mean, it to his detriment, because I mean, Jimmy, like I said, in that Jimmy was just so delighted to find something that he could fuck up.
I hate Jimmy. I'm sorry. I don't like Jimmy.
I think that Jimmy just wants it, like, Jimmy, very similar to Emma, could be a very, I don't even know if it's similar to Emma in the way that it's content at home, because he has a shitty home life, and we've just got that established. And Emma just doesn't. She just doesn't. But I
She
think
really
in
doesn't.
the same way that he picks at things that he could just leave alone, they have that in common. Like,
Hmm.
this man wronged you last year, and that was fucked up, but you don't have to be friends with him anymore. You don't have to fuck with him anymore. You can literally just pretend he doesn't exist. Why are you going out of your way to humiliate him? because
I
you're
mean,
salty and
I don't think it's
you're
salty. I think it's hurt. I
well, yeah,
think
that's part of salty.
it is part of salty, but I think like I think about me as a person because obviously Jimmy Brooks and I are very similar. Um
Okay, you
I
similar.
also can't get erections. Um
Oh,
Shots fired.
I was gonna say,
Um
well, man, he didn't even deserve that one. That was mean.
but like I don't know. I tend to be, and I've worked on it a lot. It's taken a lot of time, but like especially when I was younger, like I am my worst self when I am hurt
Yeah, of course.
because I process that into like anger and pettiness and what have you, in a way where like if somebody that I don't know or don't really care about is a dick to me, like yeah, I might be annoyed, I might even be pissed about it for a bit, but it's not gonna like sit with me the way that like that betrayal, like
Yeah,
I get where Jimmy's coming from.
and
Jimmy is hurt and Jimmy's reasonably hurt. I still don't like him.
of course I mean, it's not even that he's not reasonably hurt. I guess my reaction when I am hurt by someone is not to I mean, I'm that sort of person. If I'm really upset with you, I'll never speak another word to you a day in my life, and that for me is enough. And maybe I'm just a different person than Jimmy, and I can't fault him for wanting to be outward about it. But like for me, that brings me some peace. Like you can speak to me, you can do whatever you need to do, and talk to me, blah blah. Blah. I'm not gonna engage with you. You don't exist to me anymore. But like that is like a resort I get to when someone really fucks me up and like fucks with me. And I mean, of course, the wrath was very similar, but the crime was like drastically like you could really fuck with me one time and I was like, I don't care. You don't exist. And that is an overreaction of an adolescent. And I admit
See,
that.
and Jimmy and I instead go with the I am going to ruin your world, which is
Two
also
different
a
types of
very like
people. Yeah,
overreaction of an adolescent.
it is. And I mean, it's does he get there? I don't know. I don't know that we see character growth in this episode more than we see the fact that he got what he wanted, which was to fuck with Spinner.
Right. Yeah, no, do they like cuz I know they kind of make up eventually.
They do. Uh,
But it's not this episode.
it's not. I don't think it happens for a little bit.
I do just want to say I love the scene when Jimmy's like, "Okay, I'll give you the locker if you tell everyone you're a big old pussy." Um it takes place at a skate park.
Mm-hmm.
We've never seen Jimmy skate. We've never seen Spinner skate.
They borrowed
We're
the
never
board
going to
from
see them
Craig.
skate again. Yeah, there is one skateboard
There's
that is
one.
the Degrassi Community School skateboard.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even borrow it from
Brotherhood of the
Craig. You
Traveling
actually have to sign it out
Skateboard.
from the gym.
Yeah. Brotherhood of the
It's
Traveling
Armstrong's.
Skateboard. I really think it's funny that we're just supposed to pass. Oh, they're athletic. They do they
Yeah.
do different sports. Like what that's
No,
what the kids do.
I love there's a degree to which like somebody will just have a hobby and then not,
Mhm.
like the traveling skateboard. I feel like Craig's photography doesn't last much longer.
Yeah.
You know, or like sometimes Ellie plays bass.
She just fucking walks around with
Terry also,
she's
or I guess
artsy.
she's yeah.
She plays the bass and she's got a camera.
Mhm.
An old school she's edgy. She's on fire. Yeah. They get on my nerves with their casual hobbies. Like these kids must have money to just have bases lying around just
Right?
for like a cool thing to wear as a prop.
Yeah,
I
Ellie doesn't
mean,
actually play, it's just an accessory.
it really just yeah. And I mean not to take it too far into because I mean Ellie's barely in this. Is she even in this fucking episode? She is, but she's not. I think that I saw in the Degrassi group that someone was like, "Oh, when they first introduced her last season, and her and Paige are interacting, and she's like, yeah, I heard you. I'm just, I'm not gonna move." Basically, they're
Mm.
like, "I love Ellie's intro," and I'm like, "But she doesn't stay that way." And then I saw in the comments people were saying similar, like she doesn't really, she loses that fire, and I'm like, yeah, they just decide that they don't want her to be that person anymore. They don't want her to be the
Yeah.
firecracker. She can still challenge Paige, but Paige has got to mostly shit on her, and she's got to have some comeback occasionally. That's the way it's got to
And
be.
most of the
We make
time,
the
she's
rules.
not going to have it.
Most of the time, she's just going to take the L. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, no, it's.
Paige's got those zingers for you. Ellie can't keep up, except when she could.
It's disappointing. It's disappointing. I don't know. I'm still trying to show her grace. You're doing really well at showing no mercy.
It's because I think that I just have so little patience for like the flip floppedness of the way that they write her character.
Hmm.
They give her very annoying things to cling to, and it's very hard for me as someone who eventually goes on to really like her, what they do to her before, and I don't know if it's going to be enough this time. From a critical
Yeah.
standpoint, I don't know if it's going to be enough this time to like get me through all of the bad things that I had, like her good arc. I'll put a plural in there. I think that there's going to be a point in time where I'm like, yes, this is the good part. This is the good place.
Is it
However, it's
is it a is it a full plural, or is it the kind where the S is in parentheses?
the S is in parentheses. Um, no shade, just that's what it is, and I just feel so bad because there's so much to get through of like unsavoriness. Oh, there's gonna be so much to get through.
Yeah, yeah.
They keep her in the
It's,
story for a while after she's like no longer enjoyable as a character. But we are
right,
skip
right.
doodling ahead
She goes all the
on
way
my
to
arc for
fucking
Ellie.
Degrassi goes to Hollywood.
Yeah, and then she's just fucking a fraction of the character that she used to be. But
Her in the ocean.
please, we can't. This has got to be saved for the Ellie retrospective that will be my little pet project. We will start
Isn't
getting
there
in.
like a red balloon involved too?
Please, I can't. It is 11 a.m. on a Friday. We have got how many days left in this fucking year? I can't, Caroline, and I won't. That is for another day. That is a battle for another Avis. It's not me.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
But
That's totally fair.
we're gonna get to the point where some characters are gonna start getting phased out soon, and I think, I don't know who it's gonna be the first big person. I forget, but like that's when the retrospectives are gonna start, and we're gonna give out all of
Hmm.
our a shit ton of our feelings. I'm gonna make it my mission. I don't think it's Toby first. I think they keep Toby around a while.
They keep Toby around for a long time, not
Not
for Emma's wedding.
No, he just wasn't invited.
No,
Except
he
his
was, but he sent
doppelganger.
he was like, I can't come, but I'll send me from Wish.
Mm-hmm. This is what you ordered. Uh-uh. But yeah. Uh so okay. I will talk about the intro because I think we, just to try to get that in there, because I mean the B plot's very, I don't really have a lot more to say about it, about its hearts,
Yeah, no, I think
about its
let me double
guts.
check
Yeah.
notes, but I think,
Like the core of it really is like this ongoing thing between Jimmy and Spinner. It's going to
hmm
they're going to continue to bitch at each other, and I mean Spinner's just on the losing end of it this time. Most
yeah.
times. Most times.
But I do think, it's cute enough. It's, I think it shows us a lot of Spinner,
It
and like
does.
a lot
He
of
gets
Spinner's potential,
range.
and like
Mhm.
it was smart that he figured that out, and it was smart that he was able to orchestrate that,
Yeah.
not only to have the idea, but then to be like, okay, what do I need to do to get, to get the locker that I want? Who else do I need to involve? What do I need to offer them?
Yeah. It was a thoughtful plan. He was being thoughtful, and I think that that's ultimately what we take away from him in these episodes, is that he really tried. He wasn't
Mm-hmm.
half-assing it. He was really trying. Um and I mean, the person who comes off looking like the douchebag is Paige. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she has to admit that his efforts weren't good enough for her. um which sucks, but that's an important moment for her, because like we growth, she is able to admit that it just wasn't good enough, and that's why she told him she rejected it.
I don't, it's not one of those B plots where I feel like it's just filler,
No, I don't think it's filler.
or like I think it's important character development. And I think it's
Hmm.
important plot development.
Oh yeah, I'll take this over the entirety of that episode. What's called Relax. I will take
Mm-hmm.
just this B plot over that entire episode because it's pointless and it goes
Right.
nowhere. Um,
Or like the B plot of Toby and JT sharing the locker. Pointless.
pointless, because it goes on to
Um,
mean nothing. And I mean, it's another notch in their friendship belt, but we could have done that like without a whole B plot focused on it. I don't know. This isn't bad. I think that we get people we're interested in seeing. We get more of their relationship. We want to know how they're doing. So we
mm-hmm.
get that update. We want to know, are Jimmy and Spinner ever going to be friends again? I think that you walk away with this episode feeling like, okay, at least Jimmy cares enough to still be fucking with Spinner. They're probably going to be friends again.
Right.
Um,
Well, and that's the other thing is I feel like part of Jimmy's fucking with Spinner is that he's trying to get to whatever point it is where he's going to feel like they're even again so they can be friends again,
yeah.
and hopefully he doesn't push too hard in the getting there.
Oh, yeah.
So all in all, solid B plot.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with it. It was entertaining to watch. I watched this episode because I just don't rely on myself to retain anything, even though I've seen this show too many times. I did watch it twice, so it wasn't the both of these plots are fine to rewatch. They're not boring. You notice new things. They're fine. I will say before we segue into the A plot that I really do, this is probably my favorite intro. Um I just really think it's very authentic. I think that they hit their stride with understanding what they wanted for the intro. They're showing people
Mm-hmm.
in their native habitat, doing things that we expect them to do, or that is solidified into their character. Like we've got Craig and Ashley in the music lab, and they're making music together, and I really do, I love that there's Paige and Hazel and Manny as cheerleaders, because that's what we really think about when we think about Paige, that she's head cheerleader, and we finally have her in the intro doing that. Like it's definitely, I
No, it's a
like it.
solid
It's one of my
intro.
favorites. I mean, there's a couple that riff off of this idea, and they just plug in different people for different moves of the camera. But this is one of my favorites of this ilk. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, okay. So my big gripe with this A plot, and it will always be the manipulation of Craig Manning. That's all I really have to fucking say about that.
How Emma manipulates him?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's rude. His dad just died. Died, Emma. Like he did. That man dead. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Right.
Why would
No,
you
it's
do that?
it's
Like, I just think she's a shitbox. She's a little shitbox for that.
well, and it's weird too because it's like
My gosh. I just had to get that off of the top,
I
off my
don't know
chest.
why Craig having a dead abusive dad is going
Is
to
in any
like
way going to alleviate, give you a comrade in arms in this
right,
situation. He cannot
like it would
relate
make
to
more
you.
sense to go to like Ellie, who
Ellie,
knows who her dad is, but he's overseas all the time. Or like somebody who doesn't know who their dad
you
is.
could go to
Tara,
Ashley
who's
because her
adopted.
dad's gay and she feels estranged from that man.
Right,
Like
right.
someone who has a
There are so
dad
many
with
options that make more
issues with that
sense.
dad. Yeah, like come on. Come on. Come
But
on.
it see, and honestly, it makes me mad because I just like I feel like a Craig Emma friendship
Mhm.
could have been a really good thing for both of them.
I think one of my notes is that this episode made me want more Emma and Craig. And
Their train montage is adorable.
it is. They're two of one of them, like they have very great chemistry, but they're also great actors. I think that I
Mhm.
think Miriam has her moments in these early seasons where she's not as strong, but I do think that she's pretty consistent in her ability to like convey material and be this character that I don't think is super. I mean, I think that there's some aspects she shares with Emma, but I can clearly see that she's at some points that she's just not, she's acting, she's being very just genuine. Though I think that she has a great chemistry with Jake for that reason. It does kind of bother me that we don't get more of them, but then I also am like, he didn't need more issues. Like he didn't need more friends that were girls, he needed more therapy. No.
I mean, I don't know. I think
They didn't
an
bring out the
area
best
where
out
I
of
think
each other either.
Degrassi is lacking, and it's not even a shortcoming on Degrassi. I think media for a long time has been lacking in like good opposite gender, like platonic relationships.
Right, that don't eventually become, that's not like the prelude to
Right.
a sexual
That's not friends
relationship.
to
Yeah.
lovers. That's like,
Yeah,
and
you'd be
like
scraping the bottom of the barrel.
we get, gay man, straight girl.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it. And like, it would be nice to see two straight kids of opposite genders who are friends and just friends. It's, I
Mm-hmm.
think we've all been done a giant disservice in not normalizing that.
Right, because it does exist. It exists.
It does exist and it's
And
great.
it is great. And I think that there's something to be said for that relationship because it's, I mean, you guys can learn a lot from each other. I personally
Mm-hmm.
don't like, I do have friends that are men. I don't, am not going to really interact with a man in any other capacity, so they've got to be my friend.
Well, yeah, no, your friendship is invalid. No, it's not that it's invalid, but it is like as a straight woman, like
Well, for me, it's a little different because not to air out my personal stuff on the pad, but
no, but it
I
is.
have had sexual relationships with men. I just don't have romantic relationships with men. So therein lies the issue for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because typically if I've had sexual relationships, there's a desire to go further and be a romantic. It's probably just because I'm not available for that, but who's to say? So it's like I think that there's always that like undertone of like, oh, if there's a fuckability probability, like, are like I'm gonna be friends with you just to see if I can have sex with you.
Right.
Which I don't, I have friends that I know that that's not the case, like that there is genuine friendship. And I mean whether or not they're, I think it's a lot. I think maybe that's why they try not to do it, because it can be like, okay, well, are you guys friends because you're not attracted to each other, or are you friends because you are
Mm-hmm.
attracted to each other but your friendship just means more than being sexually attracted to each other?
Funny enough, of the men that I am just friends with,
Mm-hmm.
the only one that I've ever slept with was gay.
Mm. Well,
So I don't know what that
I was
says,
gonna
but
say.
We were both drunk. We were both in a dry spell.
Those dry spells can get you, gotcha, snatch you up, have you doing uncharacteristic stuff.
It was actually like, it was fine. It was great. It was like we were both able to like compare notes and
Okay.
like be just like, because it didn't like make the friendship weird. It was just like, oh yeah, we had sex that time.
Yeah. Well, then that's good. Being able to kind of just say like that happened, but
Right.
we're homies is very evolved, and I,
It just
you know,
wasn't like, it wasn't an awkward thing.
yeah.
And probably in a way where it would have been if it had been one of my straight guy friends.
Well, yeah, because then you got to talk about it. What does it mean?
Right. And it
Are
wasn't
we
one
gonna
of
do
those
it
like, oh,
again?
we were really drunk and it just kind of happened and now we have to talk about it type of things. It was like we were both kind of drunk. We were both in a dry spell. One or the other of us was like, when's the last time you had sex?
Mm.
We like start that conversation and then we're like, I mean, we could.
Wait, that super reminds me of something that I'm going to just say briefly, and then we've got to actually talk about the episode that we need to talk about because it's going to lead us down a whole nother fucking thing that we can't talk about for a long time. But Marco and Ellie in college,
Mm,
same shit, and you've got to talk about that more in depth when that happens
when we do that, that's
because
fine.
that is such a polarizing fucking episode and occurrence in that episode that I remember having discourse in the old Facebook group about it and people roasting me being like like sexuality is fluid, sometimes you're just like fuck it, that doesn't mean you're not gay. I'm sorry.
Right. Right.
Like, and it was a super controversial take because people were just like, no, Marco's gay. I'm like, I didn't say that he wasn't.
Yeah, no, he's still
He's still
gay.
very
He
gay.
had sex with Ellie. Like, it happens.
It very much happens. um
Yeah.
yeah, so we're gonna need that. I love that you have that personal
Yeah.
experience. We're
No, we
doing
can
it. Like,
totally.
yeah, tack it
Yep.
on, schedule it for like 4 seasons, 4 more, three
Right.
more seasons. I don't know how many more
At the
seasons.
rate we're recording, that'll be like this summer, right?
Yeah,
So,
right. Catch us always recording. But
oh my God, seriously.
yeah, out here. But yeah,
But
okay.
okay, this has been another standard deviation.
We, of course, we've gotta. I mean, Craig and we were robbed of Craig and Emma because I mean their little travel montage, their little train escapades. It's cute, and I do think for what it's worth, Craig's personality does aid her in this journey. She would not have
Mm-hmm.
gone up at the end of the episode to um like look up the room and encourage her to go upstairs and he'll wait down here and everything. Like, I don't know any of the other options that she would have picked that would have gotten that personally involved, because Craig, one thing he's going to do is get, like, once you've involved him, it's his thing too. Like, he's in it,
Right.
and he's going to be in it as much as you're in it, and I don't know who else would have done that aside from Manny. Like, Manny would
Right.
have done that because that's her best friend, but like, Craig kind of
Mm-hmm.
stepped up and he did what Manny could not do because her mom would have kicked her ass. Not physically. That's I'm not meaning to
No.
say, but kicked her ass, as we all know moms will do if you cut class and other things. But yeah, so
And Sean's got his, social worker to worry
yeah,
about.
Sean's
And
like
Emma's
not
just
fucking
like,
around with it. He's like, I'm not doing this
which
with you.
she's like super shitty about it. It's like, Emma,
You would never have
you don't
encouraged
know
him
Sean's
to,
life.
right?
You
Like,
don't like.
she knows it's not like stable. Period.
This is see, this is why like ultimately I'm not pro Emma and Sean. Like, and
Yeah,
again, I think that they're like, them falling in love,
it's very
very, very
sweet,
sweet.
very sweet.
The ways that they can be there for each other, but it's mostly the ways that Sean can be there for Emma,
It's
honestly.
pretty much the ways that Sean can be there for Emma. Like, he has the emotional. I mean, out of the two of them, it's not that like Emma's emotionally immature, but like when she gets ready, she throws all of that to the wind and is just willing to believe what she wants to believe versus what things actually are. And like,
Well, And it's also just a fundamental misunderstanding of the reality of things.
That's my
It ties back to her causes. It's how she doesn't consider that, like, GM foods feed starving
right.
people.
She does not
And MAK
consider
makes it so Sean can do his fucking schoolwork.
she does not consider the other opinion or the other reality, because her reality is it's part of the reality, but it's not the whole
She's got a
thing.
computer in her bedroom.
She shouldn't, but yes, she does. The fact that, like, I think I said it in our because we have, I don't know if we mentioned it in the pre-show or anything, but we have recorded this episode before. um so I've said before that I'm just gonna give fucking Spike a gold star on her forehead for taking that fucking computer out of her room and making her have to creep downstairs at night to do internet research, or
Right?
upstairs. She has to go upstairs because now she's living
Right, because
downstairs.
she lives in the
So her
basement.
Spike did not put that shit in the basement. I don't know if it's for logistics, because at that time you would have had to have it plugged into the modem via, like, those
Mm-hmm.
the cord, the cable cords,
The, like,
the
Ethernet
Ethernet cable.
cable.
Thank you. So I know we had a super fucking long one at my house because my mom had to string it down the stairs. But, like, Spike was probably like, either I'm gonna be a smart parent and not put this in your in the basement where you can have 24-hour unbridled access to it, or I'm just not moving this shit down a flight of stairs because we're gonna have to string a cord down there, and that's not fucking reasonable.
Right.
Whichever it
I
was,
mean,
good for
honestly,
you.
though, I don't know. My kid would not have unsupervised computer access for a long time after she almost got
I
taken
mean,
to
I
Yellowknife.
really want to have the faith in Spike that the reason why she's not having the unsupervised access is because of that occurrence. But I also feel like that's putting too much faith in Spike. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if she has that much parental prowess built up yet. Um, I think that she just trusts
No.
Emma, and, like, see Emma, see this is why you don't do this shit, and, like, and, like, expect her
But no,
to
what does Emma
never
do? She
fall
gives a
internet
stranger her address. She gets on the internet, finds a stranger, and gives
and
him her
gives him
address.
her address because he has a photograph. I mean, to be fair, her mother's in it.
He is her
He's her
dad.
dad,
He is her
but she
dad.
doesn't
But
know
she
this
doesn't
man.
know him.
Who is this? She doesn't know this man from Adam. At least, like, go visit him again, feel him out, start a dialogue with your mother. I don't know. Be
Right.
reasonable, safe, smart,
Right.
any of those things. No, those don't occur to her. To me, it just seems like she's ready to be angry at everyone, but, like, it's hard to know who to be angry at in this situation. It's like no one's fault. It's no one's fault that what happened to Shane happened. He literally was tripping on acid and either jumped and or was fell off of a bridge. It's kind of ambiguous in the old series. And his traumatic brain.
Plot twist: Snake pushed him.
If we want to do a Degrassi Diaries about that, that would be dun dun dun. No, no,
I kid.
it's very much like it's no one's fault, and it to I think it's really cruel of Emma. Again, Emma's just throwing the deep cuts in this episode to, like, blame her mother for putting her father in a group home. She was a child. And I think her math is still not mathing, because how did she have custody over the fucking 16-year-old boyfriend that she had? They weren't even together at that
Right.
time.
No.
How did she have custody
Spike
over
didn't do
him to sign
anything.
him into an institution where he could be? How did she have, and how did he become a doctor? Even if his brain was perfectly untraumatized or traumatically injured, how would he have had the time to become a doctor?
He's not Doogie Howser. But okay, so I will say in defense of that, like, it's a little ridiculous, but I can also understand that's how she remembers it, and she's never examined it.
Yeah.
because it's what makes sense to her, and like we don't challenge our own bias. I think it's a very human thing not to challenge our own bias. For Emma, it makes sense to me
Mhm.
that she hasn't re-examined it, because it's the story she's told herself to cope with not having a dad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It doesn't make sense that neither Craig or Ashley is like,
Wait,
wait,
he's
he's like a year older than your mom
he
and he was a
says
doctor when
doctor
you
when
were a
you were three.
toddler.
When you were three, you were three. So Max, your mom was how old? Because your mom had you when she was
17.
13,
So your dad is maybe 18, 19.
barely out of
19
high
stretching
school,
it.
barely an
But yeah, he was
undergrad,
a doctor. Yeah, that tracks.
barely
That
in
tracks, Emma.
undergraduate, like university. If he went straight to university,
Right.
Emma,
And he didn't. He went straight off a
he
bridge
was.
and into a group
Oh
home.
fuck. Oh gosh, it's the math never, like Emma refuses to do math is my note. Emma refuses to do math, but like I get
I
it.
don't blame Emma for it. I don't blame Emma
I
for it. I do,
I
like,
mean,
why did Ashley and Craig
not
not?
as perfectly capable people of doing like the math. They did nothing. Craig could have sat on that train and said, "Wait a minute." But he just didn't. He just didn't
Right.
think about it. But like I must say, there is something for that phase of being like, okay, where is my father? Personally, I had a super present stepfather. I have he's well and alive. I have a super present stepfather, and after a point, I was in fourth grade, and I think recording last time I could not remember my teacher's name, but I've since remembered her name is Mrs. Lewis, and I always called him Mr. Brink, and I wanted to call him dad. So I had the conversation with her to call him dad. And I had this, and that was kind of, I was 10. That was the culmination of me struggling against like the fact that my father, my biological father, just wasn't doing what I expected him to do. He wasn't there. But my stepfather was there. And as like a child who had both that struggle of your biological father just not being present or who you needed, and then like it's hard to kind of reconcile the people that show up for you, but I feel like that's what you should always focus on, is who's showing up for you.
But when you're young, like, no, I had similar of like, I feel like most of the times when I was younger that I got mad at, and I just call my stepdad my dad.
Mm-hmm.
The times that I got mad at my dad,
Yeah.
it was because he was being who my biological dad couldn't or wouldn't be for me.
Absolutely.
And like,
Absolutely. Right. And it's kind of like resentful. It's like you're not even my actual, like, you had no role in creating my life, and you take more responsibility for me than the actual person who had a role in creating my life. So it's hard.
well, and I think there's that struggle too of like, I always had a really hard time being mad at my biological dad
Mhm.
because he had already left. I didn't want him to leave more.
Mhm. Me too.
You know, whether or not it was his intention, he had told me I was disposable to a degree.
Mhm.
And I did not want to be thrown away. And
Right.
so I was mad at my mom, and I was mad at my stepmom, and I was mad at my dad,
Mhm.
but I wasn't mad at my bio dad, or at
Absolutely
least I didn't
not.
like let him
I
know
didn't let him
that.
know that. Same for me. Like I didn't want to be whatever little scraps of interactions I had with him. I didn't want them to be hostile. Even when he didn't deserve it. Like he would just
Mhm.
deserve hostility more than anything. I definitely was nicer to him than I felt he deserved. And as an adult, it's like, okay, there's I speak to my dad very regularly in terms of like we text more than we talk on the phone. I hate talking on the phone, but it's more of a relationship than I'll ever have with my biological father, because in a way too he can't accept that he wasn't there. and that there was someone that was
Mm-hmm.
there instead, and in, stepped up when he wasn't stepping up. And now he kind of wants to rewrite history, but it's like, you don't know me like he knows me. You were not there. You did not raise me. So it's
Right.
very hard to like kind of have a relationship with someone who's like, yeah, I am your father. Okay, but what did you do? Like, what did you do?
Right.
um
Right.
it's very hard. Like, I don't think that, like, Emma's feelings fall on deaf ears. Like, obviously we both relate. I think that it's just so hard to, like, I appreciate her turnaround and like accepting that Snake is not trying to replace Shane, because he can't. He is never going to be Shane, and he doesn't want to be Shane, but he is stepping up to be a father figure. And, a
I
father.
see what you
I
did there.
know, I tried. Sidebar, that this song is so inappropriate for the plot. Sometimes it
um
lines up, and sometimes it's just like, oh gosh. If you guys haven't listened to Father
yeah.
Figure by George Michael, please do yourself a favor and listen to it not in the context of this episode, please and thank you.
No, but it's all very real. It's all shit I can sympathize with.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of why it annoys me too, is that like when Emma is being shitty to Snake,
Mm-hmm.
I'm removed from it and I'm able to see how shitty it is.
Right.
And I'm able to be like, oh, this must have sucked for my dad.
Yes. Oh yes.
All that man ever tried to do. Have I ever told you the story of the day my mom fell in love with my dad?
I don't think so.
It was their first Christmas together. I was 8. My dad had spent the day with his boys, but they went to their mom's for dinner, and so he came over to our house for dinner. I had gotten a tea set for Christmas. I had asked my mother all day long to have a tea party with me, and she was like, I can't, I can't, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
My dad gets there. At the time, he was just Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Daigle. Um, but he gets there, and shortly after he arrives, I'm like, Mom, tea party. And she's like, I'm making dinner. I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, who at the time was like a power lifter, he's very like lumberjacky,
Mm-hmm.
like picture the brawny towel
Yeah.
guy, looks at me and he goes, I've never had a tea party. Could I come to your tea party?
Oh.
And that man put on a silly hat and sat on the floor with me and some dolls and drank pretend tea.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And like so early on was like, no, this is my kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is my
Yeah.
kid.
Same. Yeah.
And so yeah, no, I hate this episode because I think back to that man and then I think back to me at that 13, 14-year-old
Right.
age.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Oh, you put.
because my dad's also like goofy and he's very
Mm-hmm.
Snake.
I would compare my dad to Snake as well. He's very much like, but he's gonna keep trying. Like, that's what I love about Snake, is like he's not put off by her prickly disposition. He knows that she's gonna come around and she has to process and go through her shit.
Well, I think he knows where it comes from and I
Yeah.
think he respects it and has empathy for
Mm-hmm.
it. I don't think that means it doesn't
I don't
hurt.
think that means it doesn't hurt either. I think it means that he's a great guy, because he doesn't he takes
Mm-hmm.
that, because he knows where it comes from, even when he doesn't really know where it comes from. Because there are other situations that he's just been like, okay, I'm just gonna take this on the chin. I don't know where the fuck your your head is at today. But like, it's very much like he loves her. He loves her unconditionally. It's like, it's apparent, you know not it's apparent that he's a parent. He's very much like, I am going to be here for you, even though you're still figuring it out, and like you don't know what
Right.
you're doing, because like she's hurting too, and hurt people. I'm sure Snake says shit like that in his spare time.
Especially fucking hurt teenagers who don't know how to process their
Hmm.
emotions. And she's got a lot of very big,
Big
very real, very
feelings.
valid
Yes, Emma
feelings.
got big feelings. Yep.
No, and I think it's a solid
It
A plot.
is. It is.
It's frustrating to watch. But
It
like,
definitely wraps itself up nicely in the end, even with Shane inviting himself over, though he was given the address to Emma's.
he was, because that was stupid. Emma is an idiot who learned nothing from mother child
She learned
relationship.
zip. And I mean, my problem, okay, and I mean, I think that this is just literally a whole issue with the way they wrote Shane, because I'll briefly because we're hitting our mark of time, but I know that originally Shane was portrayed by a different actor, and I know that this actor did not want to come back because he just did not agree with this arc. And it's fair because the arc is just not good. Shane, we see him in this two-parter, we see him at the very end, and then he's throughout the second part, and he is just kind of a semblance of what they tried to do to him in the original show. In the original show, of course, he has bursts of anger and confusion, but he's still very much able to hold a conversation, and I think they give him more of a dopey sort of personality. And I don't know how traumatic brain injuries work. I am not a neurologist or whatever you need to be, but I just
They can work a lot of ways.
right, I think that if it's possible, maybe he evolved into this. I don't know, but it's very inconsistent with how he was portrayed in the original show, and I think it's harder to watch it as in it was very hard to watch his portrayal in the original show. Like, he's walking around saying everybody deserves to be kicked in the head, who who's uh going against him. Like, he asks Spike if she'd like to go out sometime to a movie, and she says, I don't think that's a good idea, and she's like, you're dumb and you deserve to be kicked in the head. Like, he does still have those outbursts of anger, and I think that those are consistent, but I think that they definitely play up negative aspects of the TBI that weren't really present before.
Right. And you certainly can have like a loss of like cognitive
Mm-hmm.
abilities, like is portrayed, but you can also have a TBI and it's just going to like change personality things, you
Right.
know? And like, I don't know. It's actually really scary how completely different a person can
Right,
become.
as a result of a TBI. Yeah. And I mean, I think that they could have explored it in other ways. Because we didn't see that much of Shane
Mhm.
in the original series, I just wish that there was, like, I was left wanting for the fact that we only see this man in this fucking instance. We don't really even talk about this man again.
Nope.
Like, I think that we can probably put him in the black hole, but like, I don't know. He's just not.
No, he's black. That's why it's on the script for a black hole today, because he's a
Oh,
black
right.
hole.
It's on the script, Davis. Read the script. But yeah, it's okay. So yeah, he's never mentioned again, and we really don't like this little bow that they tried to wrap it up into. I just didn't appreciate, and I get why the OG actor was just like, yeah, fuck this shit. I'm not doing it. And I must point out, there's only one woman that works at that center where Shane where
Right.
Shane is housed.
And then a bunch of buff
And
orderlies.
she's got to go pick people up when they run off into the streets because she's the doctor, and she's transport, and she's an orderly and a nurse, I guess. I don't know. She's making fucking rounds and like not in her I don't know.
Safe to say she's not getting paid
She's
enough.
most likely not getting paid enough. She's pulling off apron strings and then putting a hat on and going to do three other. She's got a bunch of jobs, this bitch. But I mean, like, that's fine. Once again, they just didn't want to hire other people. They're like, we know this person. It needs to be
Right.
her. And I was just a little bit high watching the scene where
You
me
never.
I never indulge in the devil's lettuce. Where she's like, do you have an appointment? And and then Dolly zooms in on Craig and Emma, and she's like, no. I don't know. It was just really wacko. It was just like, why did they dolly zoom?
I love you. Love a
Why
dolly
did they?
zoom.
They keep making me. They keep throwing it in there. Like I'm gonna talk about the dolly zoom every time I see it because you guys throw it in.
Ashley, your dad is gay. Zoom. Do you guys have an appointment?
Zoom.
Zoom.
This is like two varying degrees of like fucking dramatic, whatever. Oh my gosh, Degrassi, what the fuck? Um, but yeah, and my last.
I
Go ahead.
do. Oh, go
I was
ahead.
I
No,
was
you
gonna
go
take it
ahead.
to a different topic. So if you had anything on this,
No, I was just gonna say I do love like that last scene when the Nelson Simpson family is all
mm-hmm.
together, and Emma says to baby Jack, "You look like our
Yes,
dad." And like it's hokey, but
I
it's
like it. I
like
like it a lot.
I
It's
like it.
very
It's
sweet.
sweet and it's
It it
you
warms my
know
heart, and I mean, I think that I'm glad that you brought it to that because mine is not as important as that beautiful note. It's just an observation that they cleaned that baby up so fast.
it was a big ass
They big
newborn.
that thing would have tore little ass Spike the hell up from end to end. She's torn.
I hope that Liz like reevaluated her views on abortion before she became a
I
midwife.
hope so too. Otherwise, like she's like the worst midwife ever, and I don't want her in my house.
At least she reevaluated her views on that haircut.
I'm glad that they both reevaluated their views on haircuts because, gosh, Spike, what the fuck?
Better than
Oh yeah,
Liz's.
like I mean, I think it's a look. It was a look in time, but then like never again, please.
Anytime one of my friends is like, I need to do a hair change, what should I do? I post a picture of Liz in the
And they
comments.
completely
I'm
are
like,
turned off
this.
from wanting a haircut now. They're like, I've just lost my appetite for a haircut. Thanks. Really?
It's a
Right in
choice.
front
It's
of
very punk, I
my
guess.
haircut Pinterest board? uh yeah, no. I this A plot, it was cute. It wrapped up very cute. And I'm happy for Simpson that he's got harmony in his home for about 2.5 seconds.
And Miriam can carry this plot.
She did the work. She did the work in those
Yeah.
little clogs, those potato shoes that we just wore through the summer and the winter.
It's a good one. Should we move on into the
Yeah,
segments
yes, we
though?
shall shimmy over to.
All
I
right.
mean,
You got to lead us to. Oh, I guess. Do we want to start with shots
yeah,
fired?
because I actually was cursing our former selves out in the previous episode that we recorded, but I actually think that I'm gonna stand by our previous selves.
Yeah. So we're skipping the fashion corner for the first time ever, and hopefully one of the only times
Yeah, we're just
ever.
gonna keep riding, y'all. It's just not worth the stop
There's just
today.
not worth the
We got a
stop today. You're
billboard.
right.
We can wave at a billboard. Shout out to Emma's potato shoes, um, and her lace cami, and
Yeah,
Paige's little top. Yeah, it's a
but
little
it's just
billboard on the
it's
way by. We're
lacking.
waving at it. We're not stopping. We're gonna keep chug a lugging to the part of town where the shots are fired. That's what we're gonna do.
Pew
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 pew pew
pew pew
pew.
pew.
Shots fired.
All right. So, um, let's see. Okay, my first one is fucking Quan, who is coming in hot this season once again, saying "fuck them
Yes,
kids."
indeedy.
We're talking about they're talking about their homeroom teachers, and Marco has Miss Quan, and we find that out right because Spinner's like, the pain of my
Mm-hmm.
existence," and she of course is right there, and she goes, "The word is Bane, Gavin. Don't worry, I'll tell you what it means in class. Grade 9 English, that is. Again.
Yeah, she a little asshole for that. I know that scene.
She's a little
I know
asshole.
that scene by heart because she's so rude, but her delivery is on point.
It is on point, but it's rude. It's like humiliating, and
yeah, it's not necessary. You're adding you're adding bitterness to the fucking pot.
This is a kid who struggles. What happened to like the goodwill that you built in season 1 that you then just like immediately undid?
Yeah, that's just her thing. That's just her thing, Caroline. She says fuck them kids routinely. And if we ever thought
fuck them kids.
But mine actually, my first shots fired occurs very shortly before that, when Paige says, in response to Hazel, hoping that that she and Paige, instead of fucking Simpson's homeroom, get Armstrong as a homeroom teacher, and Paige says, "Easy there, hormone girl. He's a teacher." And if you know anything about Paige Michalchuk,
it's like an ironic shot fired.
Paige Michalchuk. Michalchuk.
Oh, fuck that teacher, that professor.
Yeah, that's super relevant, Paige. Just gonna come back to bite you in the booty hole. But yeah. Then yeah.
Yeah, although also Hazel's same. Armstrong
He is. He's a hottie. Hottie toddy.
There's a point where Quan says, like, right after that. So Quan says her shitty English thing. And Paige says to Spinner, she's like, no one was laughing. And fucking Jimmy is like all of a sudden like right up in his ear, like,
oh my gosh, that sounded like such a robot, Carol. Yes.
Did it?
Wait, no. Do it again.
I was trying to go with like the intimacy of the up in the ear of Jimmy being like,
no, when you get that close, it's
nope. Okay. So we'll work that up. So Jimmy, comes right up into his ear and is just like, I was. And it's like, it's very close and uncomfortable.
Yes, he's all up in the eardrum. Nasty. You can probably feel his like the moistness from his breath, like in your ear. Oh god, I hate that. Yeah. So later on, Emma is brooding over a yearbook in the library, I believe, and Craig and Ashley walk by, and Craig's like, "Oh, what is this?" And she's like, "A yearbook from the 80s," and Craig's like, "I gotta see this." So he looks it through with her, and they see Spike, and he's like, "Isn't that your mom?" And she's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "That's crazy hair," or something like that. And Ashley's like, "Oh, maybe that should be my next due." And he's like, "Now don't make me take this book away."
To be fair, Ashley looks really cute right now.
Yeah, the red suits her. The red and the little bob, the little pixie cut. I mean, it's a little bit longer than a pixie cut.
Like... There's something, the goth felt like it was trying too
I like
hard.
the color on her. Color's not bad. Okay? You can still be goth and wear color. But she's not goth anymore. Though, she's just trying to be alternative of some sort.
She's still finding her style, but I think she's like found it more than she
did. Yeah, the look suits her a lot more. I really do like the red on her skin tone, and the cut is very cute. They're starting to look more like the couple they eventually go on to be. But yeah.
I had one more.
I have
and
two more.
It's towards the end when Spinner and Paige make up. They're kissing in the classroom, and Jimmy walks in and he says something about Spinner being whipped, and Paige, fucking queen that she is, just looks at him and goes, "Poor lonely jealous James, if only he had someone to kiss." As if.
Okay, mine.
And I'm here
for that too, because someone needed to clap back at his ass. Like, you got too much time on your hands, Jimmy. Get a fucking girlfriend. Get out of our faces. But my last one, because I thought I had another one, but I didn't, occurs somewhat before that, when Spinner is talking about his whole Monopoly spiel. And he's like, yeah, and I'm in this whole conundrum and I had no money. And Marco says, sounds familiar. Because Marco just,
Shots fired,
he
Del
just had to bring
Rossi.
in a zinger. He just had to, Marco.
You know,
Marco.
Polo.
Oopsie.
We discussed it a little bit, but we have a black hole. Shane McKay will never be heard from again, never spoken of.
R.I.P.
He's gone.
If I think about it, I'll put that music, that I will remember you. Like just a snippet.
There,
just
now
a
we
snippet.
have it. No, there we have it now.
All right. Well, all right.
Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by.
I don't know the rest of
and
the
weep
song.
not for the memories.
Okay. All right.
Is it Sarah McLachlan?
I think it's
feel like
Sarah
it's
McLachlan. Yeah. I would wager a bet. Yeah. But
Let's
sorry
check it
to
out.
this
Now I
man.
have
You
to
will never
know.
be heard from again.
No. Which, is probably better. It is Sarah McLachlan. I fucking hate Sarah McLachlan songs. But it's probably better for you. Like, go knit. You seem relatively happy. The Nelson Simpson household is a mess.
There's other things that could be done.
Your daughter is a tyrant. I've heard rumor that your baby mama is a cannibal.
Oh
so,
my God. I've heard rumor, indeed.
I don't understand that joke at all, but
I don't understand it either. It just had a life of its own for a while, and I'm here for it too. You don't have to understand everything to enjoy it, We're just along for the ride.
Shane McKay, we hardly knew you.
We really didn't.
We also have two Huns. Since we're still tracking those. Quan says her shitty thing to Spinner. And he's like, yeah, everybody laugh it up. And Paige says, no one was laughing, hun. And then Jimmy comes in off the board. I was. And then at the end, when they're having their resolution, Paige says, I'm sorry if I was demanding. And he's just kind of quiet. And she goes, feel free to say that I wasn't, hun. And he's like, I didn't notice it. Because Spinner is good, if not misguided.
Very, very misguided. Yeah.
He's trying. He's doing the best he can, okay? He's got ADHD, guys.
He does. They really want us to forget, but he does. All right.
So from there, I think it's just talking about our shining stars and our super bummers.
Yes, I think so too.
You want to start with the good or the bad this week?
Let's save the best for last. Get those bummers out of the way. I gotta say that Jimmy was a big ass bummer, of course.
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna give it to Spike.
I'll give it to Spike.
I know she's pregnant.
She's annoying. And I mean,
like, Emma's 13 and she's asking, like, it's time to answer.
But then I also have to put Emma on there because she, though very justified in her core feelings, did not need to guilt trip Craig. When in doubt, you guilt trip Craig. And did not need to blame her mother maliciously for putting that man in an institution. I don't think that's very shitty behavior, and I don't think that's justified through her feelings.
I would agree with that. I think it's explained through her feelings, but it's not justified.
No, she's a little shit basket for that, but she's going through a hard time.
Did we say Paige?
We didn't,
already?
But Paige.
Yeah.
heavy on the page.
Yeah. And again, you're growing, and I get it.
The path of growth is not linear. It's fine, but
No.
you must
No.
be you must know you were a bummer.
But we're gonna call you out when you suck, and you were a bummer this week.
Yeah.
You did have some zingers, but you were overall a bummer.
Keep them on their toes page.
And not even like memorable enough outfits to like
to weigh out the
and
snark.
your behavior.
Yeah, I was just so I was locked in to what was being said because there was no fashion to distract me. That is a problem. Mm-hmm. It's a big problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's pretty exhaustive. Shining stars. I think we're in agreement that Snake is doing the real work in the trenches in his own home, in his own fucking home,
in his own home.
Fighting for his right in his life. And Craig's got to go on there because Craig was just trying to be a good. He was trying.
I got to give it to Spinner too.
Yeah, Spinner was doing his best. It just wasn't good enough, unfortunately. For Paige.
I mean, it wasn't, and that's fine.
But like he did.
Well, no, his best included announcing to the entire class that he's
true.
Spineless.
The means to which he achieved the end were questionable, but he was really trying. And it's hard.
But the original Locker did not have questionable means, unless you ask Mr. Radich, and it wasn't good enough for her.
True.
So, yeah, no, I feel you.
I think he really did do the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I just really wanted to say that in this episode. It's like one of my favorite quotes.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Right, it wasn't completely out the frame. It wasn't
applicable.
Completely, yeah.
No, it wasn't at all. It's completely applicable. I like it. It's a good quote. Any other shining stars?
I don't think so. The fucking lady who's a plot device doing all the fucking work running that center.
Yeah. Like, I can't even really blame her for being kind of curt.
She's just like, who are you? And what are you doing here?
She's doing her best. There was, so to be fair, we do see a doctor when Emma goes up to the floor to see Shane.
There's a singular doctor.
So there's at least one doctor on the premises, and we do see a couple of orderlies run through when she's like, I have to go deal with this.
I saw those people.
But she seems to be very much running this place.
Alone.
That doctor didn't look very helpful at all.
No.
Like, he didn't hear what was going on in Shane's room. He wasn't like, why do I hear this young woman's voice that I've never heard before?
Couldn't be fucking bothered.
No, he's just doing his thing.
Wow.
He's like, I'm on my break.
He sure did. But yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I think we got the 3 shining stars of the episode, and
a lot of super bummers.
A lot of people sucked, but it's fine.
A lot of people suck.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess now is it just time to ask? Does it go there?
Does it go there?
Does it go there?
Yeah.
I would say yes.
Yeah. It tackles some shit.
Yes. Emma's dealing
some nuanced topics here.
Yeah.
It's not black and white. And it goes there.
I mean,
definitely. And
Spike gets assaulted into giving birth.
She does give birth under duress. You were
like
baby Jack came into this world fucking confused more than the normal baby. Like
she bumped into that. He threw her into that
table,
and hit her belly, and baby Jack was like, "Time to move out.
Not safe in here.
Neighborhood's getting kind of shady."
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Have you ever seen that tweet where it's like, I was asking my friend how his neighborhood's managed not to get gentrified, and he's like, oh, every week, like once a week I go out and just fire a couple of
Oh my
shots.
God. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But no, Baby Jack serves himself an eviction notice.
He's like, I'm gonna just bounce on up out of here.
Breaking this lease. Sorry.
Uh,
Don't worry about my deposit.
I'm gonna head out. Yeah. Yeah. Fucking man. Yeah, it went there. It went there.
It went there. Thanks for listening to Your Mom's Podcast. Join us next week where we'll be discussing You Got the Look, the beginning of an era, the Thong Girl, Wrong Girl era.
This episode of Your Mom's Podcast was made possible in part by Joan Fabrics, the Degrassi Insect Club, and support from listeners like you. If you'd like to further support our show, you can find us on TikTok and Facebook as Your Mom's Podcast. We also have a Facebook group of the same name. And you can find us on Instagram at YMPadcast. Your Mom's Podcast is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscriptions and reviews are another great free way to support us. However, if you're interested in supporting us in not free ways, we have a lot of great bonus content on our Patreon, and some great merch at our shop, which can be found at your-moms-podcast-shop.fourthwall.com. And remember, that's Padcast. Pahdcast. Thank you.
We would like to say a thank you to our Patreon subscribers:
Octavia Faith,
Margot Mancini, June Bard,
and A-Butts.
And a very special thank you to our Tiddy Snake Producer Alyka Fenderson.
Thank you so much for supporting the show, guys.
Thank you. Ew, I hate how I said thank you. Thank you.